Okay, guys, today I'm going to discuss the thought process that goes through my mind when I'm about to create a football manager tactic. I'm going to do this with three different teams. First is the Nigerian national team, and I'll also do the same procedure with the Argentina national team, and I'll try one more time with a club team that is fairly familiar to every one of us, like Manchester United or Juventus. Okay, guys, this is what the national team manager profile and homepage kind of looks like. It's slightly different from what a club say would look like because there will be more options down below here. But since it's the national team, so I think I just titled to your B team and under 20s for a club save. You likely see something like club and transfer budget, scouting, and the rest, training and everything. Notice the national team shuttle doesn't actually have training here on these menus. So let's just get straight to it. The first thing that comes to my mind would be to check my team report and to know the players that I have at my disposal. Here it's roughly set to a 4-4-2, so I can see just which players, or down to my best level from my assistant report, which players are good in good positions. You can also move on to your assistant manager's report to get a full idea and check squad depth from there, just to know how many players you have where and how many players you have in your squad, and then how you can use that to your advantage. Looking at this list, you can obviously change this formation here from this top left menu. You can select whichever formation you want to play with your team depending on the players that you have at your disposal. But also, to find the best formation to suit the current players that are in your team, you can choose to show, or you can choose to filter your player options to reveal to you the list of players. You can do it by current ability or by potential ability. You can also check the position overview here to know how many players you have in every position. And since this is a national team, there will be more players than you would have in a club team, say. And you can also check from position overview to know just how many more players you have that are still yet to develop to their full potential. This is the tactic page, and to set up your tactic in Football Manager, there are two ways in which you can do this. You can choose to create your own Football Manager tactic from scratch. That's where you select this plus button and then you can create a brand new tactic from scratch, or you can load a previously saved tactic or a downloaded tactic from FM Scout or FM Base, wherever it is you normally download your tactics from. But the purpose of this video was to create a Football Manager tactic in the easiest or the simplest way possible. So when you select create new tactic, you will then see the normal Football Manager tactical preset styles that you can use: control possession or game pressing. There's also wing play for lower teams or teams that are very good in wide areas. There's counter-attack and direct counter-attack, fluid counter-attack and direct counter-attack, and then there's also the defensive styles like Catenaccio Italian style, and then the regular park the bus that just sits deep and prevents the opposition from trying to score. So if you select since we're creating our own style from scratch, you select create your own style, and then you're sent to this page where you have to select a formation. That's obviously the first step, but in my mind this usually it's the last step in the tactic, because I end up moving all my players all around again to find the best position that will suit them. So for this Nigerian national team, I'm going to go with a 4-3-3 DMY just for starters, to see how they'll fit in perfectly into that tactic, and if it doesn't, then you can easily iterate and move players around to see how well they fit into the tactic. Okay, this is the team tactical page. I'm just going to clear the entire team for now, just to have a clear description of everything that I'm saying. I'm going to fill it back in. Normally, I notice most individuals tend to set their team's mentality and style of play in possession and in transition. They tend to set this up first, but I'll leave this blank just for now so I can fill in the player roles and player instructions, and I'll explain the reason why I'm not touching this just yet. And just to bring the players back in, yes, the following team selection is based on the assessment. Yeah, okay. And then we start with the goalkeeper. Our goalkeeper here is Omonefe. Omonefe, looking at his potential, we seem to have a slightly better and younger goalkeeper on the bench. So I'll bring Maduka Okoye in, and then we can check his attributes and see just how well he's suited to play in the goalkeeper role. And Maduka, by recommendation, is also a standard goalkeeper, but I notice he has good eccentricity and communication for a goalkeeper anyway, because I notice most of them, their eccentricity is always below 10, but Maduka Okoye at the age of 20 has eccentricity from 10, which means it's still going to increase as he gets older and more experienced. So it means I can use him as more than a traditional goalkeeper if I so wish. And with that decision, I can check all this other. His throwing and handling is good. His reflexes is also very, very good. His anticipation is slightly above 10, so that's good. And then his reactions for goalkeeping, I can't really see the attribute that is signifying reactions here, but judging from his mental attributes also, we can as well use him as a sweeper keeper on defend. Set that to sweeper keeper on defend. Considering all the other attributes like reflexes, his passing is not too great, but his eccentricity is also good, which means I do not need to include a player instructions for Okoye to leverage on his player attributes. Normally, if he had eccentricity to about 15, which is rare, if he had that eccentricity, you can include the take more risk instruction for him so he can start counter attacks whenever, or just play him as a sweeper keeper on support, which will also automatically mean he takes more risk and starts counter attacks whenever. This might be possible that throughout the season or during games we can switch between sweeper keeper on support and sweeper keeper on defend depending on the match conditions. Now our two fullbacks are Sanusi and Aya and Ola Aina. So here's where it's going to get tricky. Sanusi on the list is the only registered left back in the team, and I noticed that for substitute number 12 there's literally nobody playing. There's nobody filling in for Sanusi, and there is a substitute for every player in my lineup, but Sanusi, the left back, doesn't seem to have a second left back that I can fill in case he gets injured during games. So here we can go to the national pool and then just sort for the best left back that we can bring into the squad. I notice Jamili Collins. He has good pace, good work rate. His crossing is also, well, the attribute masking has kind of blurred out what his exact crossing attributes are, but he seems to be a good fit to someone we can bring in to replace Sanusi, since Sanusi will be playing all year round. We can then select Collins and add to the call up to the national team squad. Do you want to call Collins? Yes. Now that Collins is in there, we can fill him as the last substitute. Sanusi has attributes, good physical attributes, very good mental attributes as well. His flair is not so high to be used as a complete wing back, but other attributes such as marking and tackling, they're good for a defender playing the fullback role on attack duty. If we ask him to play more technical roles like the complete wing back on support, it's still possible for Soniti to execute this role, especially in games where the opposition is not as strong, and which in that case you can use his crossing ability, his dribbling, pace and acceleration to get past defenders and get the crosses into the box from wide areas. But in other big games where you will not want to be left exposed defensively, you can play Sanusi as a fullback on attack. But for now, we'll just leave him as a complete wing back on support. Complete wing backs do not require this marking attribute, as they are not supposed to always pay attention to their defensive side of their game, except you put them to support duty. As the description here says, with support duty, the complete wingback will look to combine his attacking instincts with some defensive responsibility in an effort to provide balance to the team. And if I need Sanusi to just be up front, not worry about his defense, you can set him to attack. But if I need him to at least cover sometimes, you can set him to complete wingback on support. To also focus on defending and attacking, you can set Sanusi to fullback on attack or fullback on support duty. But setting him to support means he's going to go forward sparingly and still stay back and help the defense. I'll settle on 1, which is the complete wingback on support. Ola Aina, on the other hand, has good pace, good natural fitness ability, and crossing as well. Traditionally, it's recommended that Ola Aina is an inverted winger, and he's also a two-footed player too, but an attacking fullback by media description, which means he gets forward and gets the ball into the box as quick as possible. We can now set Ola Aina to also play as a complete wingback on support, but this leaves our defense very open, and to cover for this, we might need to put a holding midfielder here on the defend duty.
Okay guys, moving on to the defensive midfielder, we have Ndidi playing this DM role. According to the assistant manager recommendations, Ndidi is well suited to play as a box-to-box midfielder. While looking at his mental attributes, his vision is okay, his teamwork and work rate are actually very, very good. His anticipation also is very, very good. His stamina as well is very high, and he has good tackling. Normally, using these attributes that Ndidi has at his disposal, I could play him as a ball-winning midfielder on defend. But I also want him to get forward because he has the ability and the stamina to move up and down the field. So instead of using Ndidi here as a defensive midfielder on defend or a ball-winning midfielder on defend, which would just make him on defend duty, with the ball-winning midfielder, his defend duty, the description says that the ball-winning midfielder will look to move the ball quickly and lay it out to a more creative player. But I also want Ndidi to do just more than that, so we can make him play as a traditional defensive midfielder on defend duty. That gives us higher ratings on his star recommendations, or set him to support and then include specific instructions to take care of or to make use of Ndidi's player attributes like tackle harder and close down more. I'll add that for Ndidi, but which means he's going to be pulled out of position, oftentimes try and win the ball back early, which is why we set Ola Aina and Sanusi to play as traditional fullbacks. Even though Sanusi is set to get forward, he'll still come back when the team is on a defensive phase. Moving into central midfield now, we have Aribo and Onyeka. Joe Aribo here and Onyeka. Joe Aribo has good dribbling, good first touch, and his passing is well below 15, but it's still good for an advanced playmaker, and he can actually use it to unlock the defense, considering that he has good work rate and vision, and he gets forward whenever possible. We need to try and find a specific role that he can play, and also tie that role that we select for Aribo to allow for Ndidi that is coming in from a deeper position. Considering that the aggression is not really high and his tackling and marking, it means Joe Aribo cannot play a defensive role in this stack. That's why Ndidi is also here to also support the team defensively. Onyeka on the other side is a box-to-box midfielder, and he has good mental attributes, both work rate, vision, determination, aggression. It's very high, and he's also a very quick player with acceleration and pace and stamina very, very high. His passing is quite better than Aribo's, so it might mean that we can play Frank Onyeka as a deep-lying playmaker or a ball-winning midfielder on defend. But if we use Onyeka here as a ball-winning midfielder on defend, although he will still primarily try to pass the ball to a more creative player, he's also going to be drawn out of position because he's trying to win the ball back from the opposing players. He makes, according to his player traits, he runs through the center and moves into channels, so locking him into position using this ball-winning midfielder on defense kind of clashes with Onyeka's player traits. So I need to find a role for him where he's allowed to move freely. And given that Onyeka here is a box-to-box midfielder and is a right-footed player too, so we can play him as a mezzala in this position, even though he doesn't have the creative attributes. And if we see in game that his creativity is lacking, we can still lock him to play as a box-to-box midfielder. And but with that sense, having Ndidi and Onyeka as box-to-box midfielders, they have good aggression and good tackling. We can set these two to tackle harder and mark tighter and try and win the ball back in the midfield, which leaves Aribo on the other side to play as an advanced playmaker on attack. That way Ndidi and Onyeka will take care of the defensive job in the midfield, leaving room for Aribo to not do much defensively but just get forward, as his street says, and try and disrupt the opposition. Moving into the attack now, just by looking at it, I can tell Chukwueze and Iwobi are on the wrong side of where they're supposed to be. I prefer Chukwueze to play on the right hand side and Iwobi to play on the left hand side. But for what we've seen, Iwobi is like, both players can still play as wingers if you need them to. If the opposition is actually sitting too deep and you want to stretch them out, you can play both players as wingers. But Iwobi here, it's very, very suited and also recommended to play as an inside forward on support duty, or inverted winger on support duty. We can pull Iwobi this way and set him as an inverted winger on support. That way the space he leaves here by moving inside allows Sanusi to get forward, and Chukwueze on this other side will leave some gaps too. He's an inverted winger on support as well, but he has very good technical attributes. His technique is actually very, very high. His dribbling is also very high, and he's a quick player too. He has good determination and flair, so he can get in between defenders and create spaces for oppositions to get through. And he's still a very young player, so he can increase in finishing. And notice this finishing being 10 or 11 means he will still put the ball in the net regardless, even if his finishing was 9. But looking at concentration and composure is something he can improve on anyway. But that wouldn't hinder his ability to create trouble for the opposition's defense. But instead of setting Chukwueze to play as an inverted winger on support, I can set him to attack. That way he can support Osimhen as another attacking source for the team, leaving Ola Aina here to cover some of the spaces that he leaves when he, unlike Iwobi that is moving laterally like this, Chukwueze will kind of drift and still get into the box somehow and make passes or take shots, and Ola Aina on this other side can just drift ahead and try and cover this space up to this point that Chukwueze has left behind. And as to the attack duty, Osimhen that is playing as a striker here is an advanced forward on attack, but recommended he can play as a pressing forward. He has the attributes to do so anyway. Very good physical attributes. His pace is almost 20, almost maxed out, and he has good finishing, good aggression, good composure, good concentration, very good mental attributes too. And we can as well play Victor Osimhen as a complete forward, but that's probably too much to ask anyway. So you can just leave him as an advanced forward on attack just to see how it turns out, and he will still get you goals considering the attributes that he has. And his off the ball is also very, very good, so you might find a way to make this work, maybe setting him to a more supportive role and then allowing the other players, the wide players. You can set Osimhen to play as a complete forward on support, and then in game maybe set Iwobi this way. He can drop deep and move around since he has good off the ball traits, and he can be more creative that way. Or you can still set him as the traditional complete forward and he'll still get you goals, and that's the way you set up the tactic. Oh, I forgot, Iwobi back to support. You'd notice a kind of balance in the team now, where the fullback here is on attack and the winger ahead of him is on support duty, leaving space for him to get forward, and the winger here is an inverted winger on attack, while the fullback that's following him from behind is a player on support duty. I don't know when I started following this rule of thumb, but there has to be a balance in the team. So not using Ndidi here as a defensive midfielder on defend means we are using only 2 players on defensive roles, which means these are the only 2 players that are fully responsible for defense anyway. And if our defense get really open, we can lock Ndidi to play as a defensive midfielder on defense. That's still an option. But until then, the tactic looks fine, and you can go to the team instructions now. You notice I left this blank when I was setting up the entire team, every player role and internal player instructions. That's because when you set this the team pressing to, let's say, very urgent or less urgent pressing, for example, and you come to Sanusi, you'd see that you can't make him do more than that, because that's the entire team's instruction. Also, if the case was reversed, that you had to set everybody to extremely urgent pressing, there are some players in the team that do not have the physical attributes to actually play with this intensity of pressing. So you have to just, for starters, leave everything blank, and then go into the game. You can also gauge the physicality. Now, judging by the players that we have in this Nigerian national team, we notice that most of the players are very fast players, except the 2 centre halves that have, like for centre halves, even Okboguma Kevin, he has very good pace. So we can use this to our advantage when we're setting up team instructions. Every player in this team tends to have very good pace, very good stamina, and even aggression in their own sense. Okay, Chukwueze has 11 for aggression, but the aggression of the other players will still cover for him, and the forwards, like it will be, they have limited aggression anyway. Okay, Osimhen has aggression for 15 and he's off the ball. His pace is off the chart. So we can use it to our advantage, knowing that the players can get back quickly. So a high line would not be the wrong way to go if we set the team's high line to a higher defensive line. That way we know our defenders can cover defensively when we're caught out of position. I'll leave the offside trap. I'm not going to take this option because I don't want the defenders to overthink their defensive duties. For marking and tackling, the players are good at tackling and they've got good marking too. So we can turn this on and ask the players to stay closer to their position. We can increase pressing intensity because the team has the aggression to do so. But I won't go all the way to extremely urgent just yet. I'll just leave it at more urgent pressing. They have good tackling as well, so you can turn on the get stuck in option and be more aggressive on the opposition. But if you notice this starts making too many fouls, you can uncheck this option and just play without it. But I'm going to leave it on for now. You can increase the line of engagement to force the opposition back into their box a bit and unsettle them. In transition, we have fast players, so we can set the possession. When possession is won, we can counter just immediately. We can ask the goalkeeper, because he has good eccentricity, so we ask the goalkeeper to distribute the ball quickly to any player on the field. If to be more specific, we can set it to distribute to fullbacks and have the fullbacks get the ball first, or we can distribute it to the playmaker in the center of the midfield. That's if we use a deep lying playmaker. But since we're not using one, I'm going to leave this blank for now and ask the keeper to either throw it long or take short kicks. Either way, just set it to distribute quickly and let the keeper use his own mental or his own decision making to select which way he can send the ball out quickly. And when possession has been lost, we want our team to try and press as soon as possible, because they have the aggression to do that and they have good tackling as well, so they can do that. In possession, more often I leave this place blank for when I'm in game. I see what's working for the team and what isn't, but we know we have good runners in the team, so we can ask the players to run at defense. The issue with this is they'll tend to dribble a lot more, and when they should be passing, they'll tend to run with the ball. So I can uncheck this option just as well and see how the game is going. If the opposition is away from their box a lot, we can run at the defense, but if they are packed inside their box, run at the defense, it's not going to work. So we're going to leave that blank for now and just play as it is. The creative freedom for the team, since we have good creative players also in the team and good runners as well, we can allow for some creative freedom and allow the players to be more expressive in their mode of play. Every other thing in this frame, this attacking approach play and final third, can be left blank for in-game. And also to exploit the spaces left behind by opposition, you can pass into space, but this also, you have to leave this blank until you're playing the game and you see actually what is working and what isn't. So you know what to select. If the opposition is sitting deep, you can lower the team's tempo, lower the passing directness, and also select walk the ball into the box option, or you can have the walk the ball into the box option on and increase the tempo with still short passing anyway. Or you can float the ball into the box, but besides that, you just leave it blank. I know I need more creativity in the team, so I'm going to leave the expressiveness on. I like to allow for more creative freedom in the team. The mentality is the last thing you're going to set, because this affects every other thing in the game, in the way your team plays and in the way your team tactic works. As everything now is set, once you move this mentality forward by one notch, okay, let me show you. Sanusi, for example, in the internal player instructions, you can see his mentality is positive, and that's because he has been set to attack. If we move him to support, his mentality is also balanced. But since we need him to be on the attack duty, we're going to leave that as attack. But the moment we move the team's mentality forward once, you can see that Sanusi's mentality becomes attacking, not very, but he takes up a notch and he's more serious with his attacking duties right now. So in that sense, we can leave this mentality blank just to start the game, as the balanced mentality describes that it's arguably the most important mentality. It balances risk and reward and allows you to assess the match, and I think is the best way to go when you're starting. Balanced mentality, I think, is the best way to go. It's also less predictable for your opposition to know how you're going to approach the game. If you go balanced, they can't tell whether you're being positive or attacking, or you're being cautious or you're being defensive. Just as in before the game starts, they will have to then play against you and see how your team is going before they can devise a way to deal with your tactic. But so that's why I feel balance is best to start with. I know this video has gone on long enough, longer than I actually expected. I noticed these are not really easy to make. So for the Argentine national team and the club team like Manchester United or Juventus, I will have to make a separate video showing how to create tactics for those teams. Very simple tactics that are not filled with too many instructions, too many player instructions, just basic player roles, basic instructions that you can use and be successful playing Football Manager. If you find this video useful, hit the like button. For more Football Manager tips with gameplay footage, hit the subscribe button to get notification when the next video goes up.